and that just comes, like I said, with time. So we'll do this. Moving pinks. The best way I can put it is that you draw a line from all the outer towers or the outermost towers, right? So if we're going back at like this 9 minute mark, right?
Mhm.
You draw a line. Or here, I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll just exit.
Rift kit.
Yep. Good old rift kit. Oops. Good old rift kit. Okay, so get a good map. Okay, so beginning of the game, if we look, right, and we just draw a line, we draw a line from here. Oh, Jesus, that was, whoa. Okay. Draw a line from here to here. Like, that's the line, right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, let's do this. If I draw a line from here to here, and then this is the line. Now, if this gets taken, bot tower gets taken, right? I'm not going to move everything, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
Sure.
you take this, right? The line now moves to here, okay?
Mhm.
So the blue team has control now of around this area because they took it. So this line kind of gets back moved. So your pinks, if it was placed here, for example, now has to get moved back over into position that's more defendable. So in this area or over here, okay? Well, um, so you have to kind of start moving your pinks. So late game, right? When the line kind of looks, what was it this game? It was like for you guys, it was like this to this, um, because you got to realize towers are wards that just kill minions. Okay, they are
Mhm.
primary sources of vision. So you got to move your pinks in areas that are pretty defendable. You don't really have a whole lot of area up here to really protect. It's all kind of a dark zone. So the only
Mhm.
way to really protect it is by placing vision. So having a pink here, a green here, and then you kind of, since that's the most typical pattern, then you can start regaining vision. Okay, but thing is, if your setup is looking something like this, I think that's how it was, and if their setup is looking something like this, that was just really bad. Holy shit. Um, Something like this.
Mhm.
This is called map relief, right? So if you're pressured into something that looks kind of like this, typically, you have vision, you have control over here, and that's kind of what happened because Lucian was able to push, create a minion wave, and that's what ended up happening because they didn't have pressure over here, they didn't have pressure over in this area, and Lucian just pushed, and you guys were able to win a team fight in mid, come down here, get tower, right?
But by pressure over there, do you mean that their tower is not pushing the minion wave back toward you?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So they have pressure mid, right? And all they did to really do anything with it was to push mid. Whereas you guys, the only realistic pressure you guys had that game was in bot lane. And you guys, this is a more defensible area because you have this tower, because the lines move, right? And Lucian was able to push this, create a minion wave pushing, put a lot of pressure on that enemy team. Um, so in that, you're able to place pinks, or excuse me, that's where map relief comes in because since the pressure is now focused in this side of the map because of this tower pushing these minions back, um, the relief comes off from it not having this tower or these towers. Okay, because the pressure translates from over here to down here on their side of the map. So that's where you can start regaining vision and control over in this area. Did that make sense?
It was a little bit much. So you're saying that if
Yeah, I
we
know.
control the bottom because we have the minion wave pushing, we don't need as much vision over there? Is that what
Right,
you're saying?
right,
Okay.
right. So this is pretty much pressured, right? So if you're pressured in mid lane, like you guys have been, okay, and this pressure's coming down here, now they have to react over here, right, in this area, because this wave is pushing the most. No other tower in the game was up, um, no other tier 2 tower in the game was up other than your guys' bot lane tower, right?
Mhm.
So this is pushing constantly over here, a lot quicker than these minions getting pushed in because one, it's a longer lane, two, it's a longer path for minions to have to move. So this is getting pushed in a lot more frequently than top lane. Mid lane is getting pushed in on your guys' side over here because in him, right?
Hold on
But
one second. Did you just say top lane the longer lane than bottom lane?
yeah, it is.
No way.
Yep.
Okay, I did not know that. They look about the same. I mean,
No, it's
geometrically speaking.
yeah, it's a longer lane. Um,
Okay.
so so since this is getting pushed in, right, and they have control over pretty much this area, they're
Uh-huh.
losing control because this tower is pushing in more and more frequently. So that's where we start seeing them have to back off from pressuring this area because they have to come defend this area. I know this is really messy, but it's called map relief. And what it does is basically, since this is pushing frequently,
Mm-hmm.
more frequently than this, and they have control over this area, they are losing control of this area. So
Mm-hmm.
for them to come over and defend this area, they have to give up pressure on this area. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but then don't we lose pressure bottom, or because they have to eventually come back over? Because, for example, it's like Baron's over there, and if we keep pushing top lane, then they'll. I mean, it's very complex because there's so many different things. Like the second they go bottom and push that lane in, we go top and push that lane in. So we technically
But
switch
but
early.
but 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 you gotta realize something. You have inhib up,
Okay.
or you have tower up here and here. So you have two defenses for this inhib. They have none. Okay, right.
Okay.
So this inhib is uh not really defendable. So if you
So
have a
we don't
big
have to
minion
defend the
wave,
bottom lane.
you don't have to defend this bottom lane as much as they do.
Right. Okay. That makes
Okay,
sense.
so since this bottom wave is being pushed in really hard by these minions, they had to send one or two people to react to it, which allows you guys to gain control over Baron, possibly get Baron. So if you see two people come bottom, and this is like probably the most basic like strat that happens in solo queue is you take bot inhib, you gain Baron control. And this is why. Is because they have to send someone or two people over here to defend it, while the team that did not have Baron control now gets Baron control because you can send five people over in this area. They can only send three or four. So
Right.
outright, you're able to defend it. You're able to defend this, gain control over this area. So that's kind of how map pressure works through minion
Wow, man,
waves.
this is definitely interesting stuff. Like I had no idea. First of all, I didn't even know that top lane was longer than bottom lane. But like thinking about it in terms of minions pressuring inhibitors, I mean, you have a basic sense of that in silver. Like obviously, you don't want to lose your inhibitors to minions, but you don't really think about the fact that if you have a tower in that lane and they don't, then you can spare that lane. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to send a person there, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that's the time to Baron bait. Like people always wonder, when do you take Baron? That's the time, because you
Yep.
don't actually have to take it. You just have to bait them, and then if you bait them long enough, they'll lose bottom inhibitor, and then you can take Baron once bottom super minions push in. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like all this stuff adds up over time.
Mm-hmm. And like even like not even taking Baron, just getting vision, right? If they have like pink here, green here, green over here, and they have to send two people down over here, well, you guys can pretty much just come in and wipe out all of it and get your own vision over here. So now we control Baron. We didn't control Baron before. Just pushing a minion wave thanks to this tower and someone going down and killing one or two waves. Now we do control Baron. Look at that. Um, that's. I know I'm talking really like deep here.
No, it makes
Um,
sense though.
but this is how the game works. Um,
It comes back to that chess concept, right? It's
yep,
like there's the
it's
center of the map and then there's the flanks, and so you can only be in one place at one time.
exactly. So that's how you guys ended up winning this game. Is not only was this like constantly pushing, but you guys ended up winning a huge fight right here, and you guys just
Yep.
went bottom and just continued this pressure because they can't do anything about it. Even if they shove it, right, and they shove it as much as they can, like even to this tower, you have minion waves, and this tower is pushing it a lot harder than everything else. So, um, pretty much, yeah, that's when you start moving vision. So if you had vision over here, since we don't have to spare someone, to defend this area unless you see the whole team moving, you can move that vision, from over here to over in this area where we're starting to gain control.
Right. Okay, so what about in a situation where, let's say that all three base inhibitors and towers are up for both sides, but
Okay.
all the rest of the towers on the map, and this is probably rare, but
No, this
theoretically,
happens.
kind of need to know, right? So, like, everybody has their bases up, but everything else is gone.
Okay.
Where do we control? Like, how does that work?
Okay, so Baron's not contested, Dragon's not contested, right? Is that what you're saying? Everything but the towers. right?
What do you mean by not contested?
Okay, so Baron isn't up and Dragon's not up. Is that what you're
Okay,
saying?
sure. For now, we'll take those off the map just to make it easier.
Okay. So in this situation, uh, the control. So like at the beginning of the game, that's the line, that's the line, right? Let me just delete these. But at the end of the game, once it starts getting like here, you control what you deem is more important. If you deem Dragon, Elder Dragon coming up more important, your team is going to make damn sure you guys come down here and get vision on it. If you deem Baron more important, you guys are going to damn sure make sure you go over here and get vision over here. But let's say both teams make Baron, the primary objective, which is very, very common. You control your side of the map. So that's where we just split the map in half. And since you are able to get to every point over here quicker from your base than they are, you control that point. Okay.
Makes sense.
Whereas they control this whole half of the map.
So for warding, I'm used to, like, let's say I'm red side.
Mhm.
I'm used to warding pretty much the west jungle and a little bit in river, like in order to set up for Baron. But obviously, if we're red side and all
Like
the
that.
towers are gone, I wouldn't do it that way. But I mean, should I?
It's typical. It's typical. People do it like that. Yeah. I mean, typically you're gonna have a green ward costed in there. Typically this is typically my setup.
Okay. Maybe we
Otherwise,
should talk about that then, because what I would normally do is, like, see right where the J is, the blue J.
Blue
I
Jay.
would put one, yeah, the jungler icon or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I would put one green ward there, one green ward on the other side of that wall. So, like, yeah, right about that bush, the banana area.
Okay. This one over here.
Yeah, right there. And then I'd put a pink in the bush by Baron. Yep, that right there. And then if I can, like, if it's safe enough, I might put another ward by wolves. They're wolves, or I might put one by Tribush, or on the other side of river
No,
by Baron.
this is really good, but we're assuming you have control over this area.
Right, that's why I started to ask that, is because
Yeah.
you're saying, like, so should I be warding our side of Baron? Because the problem with it is it doesn't actually give us vision of Baron, but then that's probably why you put one over the wall, isn't it?
Yep, that's why you put one over the wall. Because
Okay.
we don't have control over this. Okay.
Right.
We this is a whole dark zone. We don't know where any of them are. We do have control over this because that's where we are. So that's where we use our vision to maintain flanks. So we have a pink ward here. We got a green ward here. If you're able to, you can get a green ward here, and that's about it. And then you can either use this one to ward over this wall or whatever. But that's typically all you're really able to get out, unless you have 5 people walk through an unwarded jungle together, which is really, really risky. But that's, like, your warding's great, assuming you have control. If you don't have control, you need to back up and defend to your own place, because when it comes down to it, they have control of this, you have control of this. No one really controls the entire map. I mean, we have pressure, like I said. You guys have control over here, they have control over here, but you guys don't, like, I would say it's soft control. You don't have hard control. You don't have any, like, super map pressure coming in or anything like that. It's just you're able to get there quicker, and you're able to place vision quicker than they are, right? But they could very well come up here and own this because they're stronger as a team, whereas you had to defend this area because you're stronger as a team, or weaker as a team, and this is all you can really control right now. So
it's kind of tier, like, if you can't control Baron, then try to control Dragon.
yeah, if you control something, right? If they're pushing at the gates, I mean, if they're over here and they have this completely strong area, and let's say Baron and Dragon are spawning at the exact same time, well, they just used all of their vision over here, so it's really dangerous to come as a team and try and take that when you guys could take Dragon and control that. So
should you pretty much assume that anywhere their team has been, they have, like, wards?
they have vision there, yeah.
Okay. No.
That's where it gets a little more complex, because then we count war charges on supports. But I'm not
good at doing.
We're not going to do any of that. We're silver 4, focusing on
silver 4 today. So you were mentioning, like, the setup where you control your, I would call it, north side jungle, and you just kind of put a ward over Baron Pit wall so that you can at least see if they're starting it, which I didn't know about. So thank you for that, because I always saw people ward in the middle of Baron Pit. I'm like, why would you ward it there? Why not ward the river? But it makes sense now. So in a lot of pro games, I see, like, the situation where one team sweeps through and wards up the Baron River and a little bit of the enemy jungle, and then the other team sweeps through and takes it back with their wards. So is that just a situation where anytime your whole team is there, I should push my wards a little bit farther?
If you, that's situational. I mean, if you can, like let's say you see two people bottom, right,
Hmm.
or mid or whatever, and you have your whole team with you, just walk through and take this, right?
With
Because
wards.
yeah, with wards,
Okay.
because 5 outnumber 3, and you guys should be able to get there and take out anything before this guy or possibly these people over here take anything, right?
So as a general rule, the most aggressive or the deepest wards are always the best. Does that stand or no?
No, I don't. That's
Too situational.
that's so situational because let's say you want Baron control, right? And let's say we get a ward here and we get a ward. Um, where should we place this? So let's say you want Baron control and you push, right? Really, really
Hmm.
deep. Um, and this is a very common ward spot too, to see when the
Yeah.
enemy's coming. So we'll say we get a path, and sometimes you'll have trinkled paths like this to see when the enemy's coming, right?
Hmm.
But what happens when a guy comes through this way? Or what happens when a guy comes through this way? You don't have vision because of this deep vision, and you can see some of them might be coming, right? But you can't see all of them. And typically, when team fights are about to happen, like you guys are doing Baron, if you do see 2 or 3 people come through here, or maybe even all of them, like let's say you see all 5 of them even walking through here, you don't know what they're doing right here. Okay,
Right.
so they could be prepping. You don't know who's gonna flash over. You don't have vision. If you're playing like Alistar or something, you don't have a ward to drop over this wall to headbutt combo someone from coming over and possibly ruin your day. Like if they have a LeBlanc, all she has to do is come over this way. Double distortion, possibly blow someone up. Um, because blue trinkets are a thing, so they can always have vision of you. And if you guys aren't using blue, it's too situational. It's too situational. But
Right. So the word thing that you were setting up earlier when you said this is kind of what I would do, it had a lot more control over toward side bush and river. And
right,
I don't remember, but I think that you left the same area open. So is there like what are
that's
you
like
supposed
this
to?
is my
Oh, that's what
area.
you said you would do. Oh,
This
okay.
is so I'm maintaining. So what I'm doing is I'm not having my vision control like how that previous vision was like kind of controlled like this kind of area, right?
Yeah,
I'm keeping a more controlled sense of the the current objective
where the
would be
battle is actually going to happen.
where the battle's going to happen. That way people don't get lost in bushes and misclicks happen,
Okay.
and
See, I
we can
guess
see.
the reason why I would generally ward deeper is because you think like, oh, we'll get a much more of a warning on whether we should step off of Baron or finish it.
And
But
that's good and that's good to a lot of extent. That's correct, right? To when to stop bearing and whatnot. It like I said, it's really really situational.
right. Well, I
Um,
mean, can you give me like I know obviously as an advanced player, you know how to calculate exactly what the best thing is to do
mhm.
in any situation. But as a silver player, can you give me kind of a like maybe a 1 or 2 step thought process? Like, do we control this? Okay, ward more river side. Do we control that? Okay, ward more our jungle. Like that kind of a thing. Something simple that I can actually use because I don't have your thought process, right? So I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
with me in the game.
So you're basically trying to find like a 1 to 2 step process of when and where to ward.
Right, like what would work, let's say 80, 90% of the time. Granted, there are going to be situations where you're like, oh, well, had I been coaching you, I would have told you that's not the right thing.
Okay.
But most of the time, this would work.
Okay, I would say just ward around the current objective, because objectives change every game, right? So you got dragon, so make sure you have that contested and warded beforehand. You go back, you go ward it. Baron, you ward it as much as possible. So we're not focused on getting deep vision, long vision, anything like that. We're focused on current objective control, right? So if it comes down to towers, like let's say mid is the current objective because we have top tower, and
Mhm.
top lane comes down, mid lane come down, jungle come down, and we're trying to take this tower. You roam up because we're trying to take this tower. Well, make sure we have vision on the flanks, um, or whatever the objective is. So anytime there's an objective to be had, make sure you're covering the area around it. And if you can't, like let's say it's at a stalemate, so the only and this happens a lot is, geez, I'm so bad at drawing these lines. is that like the only towers up are all tier 2s, right? And that's where a lot of people get stuck is they don't know what is the next objective. Dragon's not up. It's 8, like we'll say 17 minutes. Baron isn't a contested objective. So what objective is next? Um, that's where you kind of look to see, okay, is Dragon spawn timer coming up soon? Is Baron spawn timer? How close is it? If not, what is the most likely objective the enemy team's going to be coming for? So don't be looking at the objective that your team is always going to be gunning for. If you can identify it, like in this situation, identify what the enemy team is most likely to do. Well, they
Like
spent
maybe
the
our mid tower.
exactly. They spent the last 7 minutes taking down this one. They're probably going to spend the next 10 minutes trying to get this one. So, or even like a good example would be something like this. So you have tier 1 bot lane, and you have a green ward right here. And you see their jungler and their support come this way. Well, they're going to come over here and take this because, one, that's the next objective, and two, you see people coming in. So this is where you need vision. It's around this contested objective. Even if you have all their tier 1 towers, this is their next objective, so that's where you need vision around.
So I would ward in our east jungle.
Right, exactly. So you'd have vision like here, possibly jungle entrances just to defend, maybe a pink, you know, back in this area to defend from offensive warding. But it's
Okay,
really
so you've kind of inspired two questions at once here. So back when you're talking about mid tower, us taking mid tower, you mentioned like, okay, I'm rotating up, top's rotating to mid,
mhm,
and then you said like you should be warding in pretty much both sides of banana on their
mhm,
side.
yeah,
Now, 9 times out of 10, everybody's going to get to tower before I have those wards down. So you're saying that
exactly.
I should be warding while they're taking tower?
Okay, so in this situation, let's say you got I'm not gonna move him because it takes a lot of time, but
Sure.
you got your top laner here and you got your jungler here. They just take this tower, right? And you see them coming down to river. You see this happening where they're coming down the river. They're not pinging Rift Herald. You see them walking down the river, and you see someone ping this. Pings are very important in all situations. So pings are coming here. So you know they're going for this, and they're trying to get it. Mid lane's pushing in, right? That's where you get over there as fast as possible. Okay. If you're not able to ward on this side, to ward these flanks, then get at least some defensive vision. So, like, what you can do, since you won't be able to get, like, that deep, you can, walking up to tower, you can get a ward here, and you can get a ward here at least.
Sure.
Okay, so see how these wards move based on time? So you can get wards in these areas at least. And on your way, you should be able to at least get a ward here to watch these sides. Okay, so at least you have a good defensive standpoint.
So
Okay.
if I'm on my way to tower, let's say I'm there, pretty much at the same time, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously I'm reacting to their movements, right? So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna get there first. So if they're the lane's pushing up mid, top and jungle are roaming down to
Mm-hmm.
mid. I'm about to roam up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I can definitely get the one outside of Raptors because, like you said, that's on my way anyways.
Yeah.
But should I pass up tower and go to the other side, right outside of their blue buff, toward that banana, or should I just start hitting tower with them, or what?
Okay, so if you come up and you are so this is where we are. Okay, minions were attacking tower. Okay,
Right.
if you come up this way,
Mm-hmm.
so we're hitting that on the way there. You
Right.
can just easily come over on the right side, pop a ward, like right here and right here within one movement. Okay,
Okay.
so I should move that. That's a bad placement. This one just a little deeper right here, just so we can see the ridge. Okay, so this will literally be like a quick hit here, real quick, to get a little deep vision, and then hit that one, and then we're back into tower. So
What do you
it
mean by
should
the
be
ridge, real quick?
okay, yeah. See how this kind of watches, like you see this little vision right
can
here
see
where
the
we could
change
see a
behind.
rotate, right? And we can see a rotate or someone coming from this way that might be coming down, like if their top laner or someone followed and or their jungler was here and he just is trying to come away. So that way we can see, where they might be coming. So we can get that little vision, or you can just pop it in here if you don't think they're going to get engaged on real quick. It should be about a 4 to 5 second process. It shouldn't be anything like longer than that.
Another quick question. So you were saying that if I see the top and jungle take top tower and then start to rotate mid, now should I rotate mid even if their enemy bot lane is there contesting the lane?
That's it, like this is also situational, but I mean,
Sure.
like if your ADC is sitting at tower and they're pushing in and they don't have someone that can dive them, like they don't have Leona, Braum, and Alistar, they have like a Janna or someone kind of defensive, and your ADC has like flash and heal. You're sure he probably won't get dove. Then you can go up, or
Okay.
if they're but if not, and you're afraid of the 2v1, stay.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then the last question was, so you're talking about a lot of situational wards, right? Like kind of warding on the run, like for the exact objective you're taking at the time, but
Yeah,
you only get 3 wards from a sightstone. So how
exactly.
often should I be backing to replenish those wards versus actually being there with my team to actually do things? 'Cause, I mean,
Right,
I could see a situation where I'm pretty much back in the base half the game.
right. Pretty much. That's a very good question. So, like I said, we're walking around with at least 1 or 2 pinks
Hmm.
any given moment. Okay, so but as far as only having 3 war charges, we want to make sure that we're able to use them. So if we're at bot lane, right, and you used, let's say, 1 here, we got vision here, and we're sitting on the other one, so you have 1 left, okay, because we haven't upgraded it yet, um, and you're coming up here to get this, so it's the same exact situation. What's the most important ward, right? In your opinion, is it going to be here, or is it going to be here, or is it going to be here?
Well, considering I just came through river, I know nobody's there. Um, the bottom side ward is obviously the easiest to place. Top and jungle came through top river, so I know nobody's there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously going to be one of the bananas. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be side bush. That's obviously out.
Mm-hmm. So it's
Okay,
one of
so
these two then.
I should have vision because if my ADC is there or if I have minions that are being killed by their bot lane, I should have vision on their bot lane. And top tower is missing, so I probably don't have vision on their top laner. So I'm going to guess the top side banana is the most important.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would say no. Okay.
No.
So so
No.
so so the reason is, remember I talked about like this whole line thing, right? So this is the line, whatever, I missed that, um, of
Oh, we
kind of points
control
they
that side.
control, right? So
Yeah.
now what we're seeing is, since we take that tower, we control pretty much something like that. So now, since we kind of control this little area,
It's more dangerous for them to go through there.
yes, so we can get a ward here,
Okay. So
or even a ward here. It doesn't really matter.
so the best one is probably on
It's gonna
right
yeah,
outside of red, or
right there.
oh, that's the one I said was
Oh,
right
that's the one. I thought you
top
said
of
this
red.
one. I thought you said top side of
Oh no,
banana.
I just meant that generally. Like the one you
Oh, okay.
guessed was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
it's right
this area.
inside of banana.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, you're good.
All right. So now
Then
I'm actually confused because I started to explain to myself why that was the wrong choice because you were saying that you own that jungle. So now if we own their west jungle because we took that top tower, why wouldn't we ward toward their red buff?
okay. Can you
Because
say
it's
that one
more
more time?
dangerous for them. Okay, so we took their top tower, right? Their tier
Okay.
one.
Yep.
So we technically own, right? We own that sort of like about half of their west jungle.
Mhm.
So it should be more dangerous for them to walk through there, shouldn't it?
Theoretically, yeah.
Okay, so if we sort of quote unquote own that, wouldn't it make more sense to ward the side of the jungle they feel more comfortable in, which would be the south side jungle?
But you're also not you're misguiding the fact that we see 2 of them right here. Okay. We
Okay.
see bot lane still here. Okay, because that's where they are. We do not. We see mid laner right here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see their top or jungle. Top is always most likely going to be in this general area. Jungle, since this has been taken down, is either going to be in this side of the map or this side of the map, right? We can pretty much guarantee that since this was just taken, you have to understand that the enemy top laner is probably asking for help over in this area. So if the jungler was in this general direction, he's going to be coming this way.
Right.
Okay, because this guy's pinging for help. You gotta understand that people in league cry and whine, and this
Mm-hmm.
top laner might be like 0-2. He's begging for help and mercy. Loses his tower. He's begging for more help, blaming the jungler. Jungler might come up and help. Whatever. Um, and in this sense, since we control this area, if this top laner makes a bad rotation, so if you have this ward like right here, right, and this you see this top laner make a really bad movement. He just killed all the minions up here, and he makes a move like towards this general vicinity. You can see him start to come up here. You guys might be able to make a play over wall. Okay.
Right.
Whereas if you have ward like a ward here, you're not able to really gain any playmaking ability because if you go over this wall, you're stuck in their area, and you have their ADC and their support that can react. Whereas if you can make a play over in this general area, since we control it, they don't have as many people to react, and this is a longer travel time for them to get to here.
A lot of this is situational, so I mean, we can't
Yeah,
cover everything.
I
But I'm
know
just
exactly.
curious. I always get new questions as you're explaining stuff. What would happen if, let's say, their bottom lane had backed, and we were rotating to mid lane as they were backing? Would that change which ward took priority, or no? Because we no longer
So
have
we
these
still
numbers.
we still have this. Their bot lane is in here. We see them backing, right?
Right, right. We saw them back, but like, let's say it was about 6 seconds ago, so they could be anywhere around like tier 2 tower.
Yeah, they can be anywhere in this vicinity. Okay. So that in that situation, then I would still if that was the situation, your team shouldn't be trying to take this tower,
Oh, okay.
okay? Because then we have kind of like a 5v4 where your ADC is still pushing in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we kind of back off, stagnate, and wait to regroup, or hopefully let your ADC take tower. But nonetheless, that's where objectives. Since I'm assuming this is still early game because I said Baron is in control, then
Mm-hmm.
if that happened, I would switch my focus to bot side since Dragon is going to be contested. So if they are moving as a group now, coming up to this top tower, or excuse me, mid tower to defend this, they can transition very well over to Dragon, which will be contested sooner or later. Um, whereas this is not contested yet.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Yes.
we control this point because playmaking area, we can get kills. Once we see them start to group, this is the primary focus. So we defend and control this area because that's the primary objective.
All right. Makes sense.
Cool.
Well, like I said, I could ask situational stuff all day
All
long.
day, yeah.
Um, let me go back to my original questions here. All right, so I had two at the end here that I think are good to close it out on. Number 4 was, what should I focus on learning and practicing right now so I improve instead of spreading myself too thin? Like, what are the top 1, 2, maybe 3 things? Because obviously, if you practice too much, you're just confusing yourself. That, you've seen me play one game, you kind of hear like I have some theory on it, but obviously I can't really perform much because it's, I can't think that fast in game.
All right.
So what do you think I should work on and just, practice over and over again right now?
Right now, I would say your objective control. Okay,
Objective control?
yeah, objective control. So because you got to understand, junglers don't control the objectives. Supports do. Okay,
Okay.
so you had really good map movements. You had really good reaction times. You had really good mechanics in terms of even though you're saying you didn't really do it,
Yeah.
that game you did. Okay, but there wasn't a whole lot of other than like that one instance where your team was taking dragon and you were at Baron,
Mhm.
warding. Very, very good. I want to see a lot more of stuff like that where you're trusting your team or you have a good map awareness because that was key map awareness. Whether you realize it or not, you realized or you saw or maybe you just did it. I don't know. But map awareness doesn't just mean looking at the map. It's also inferring and understanding where the enemy team is most likely going to be. You understood or at least had a thought process that they're most likely going to be at base because they just took mid tower or mid inhib. So you went to Baron, right? And you warded that because that might be a contested objective very, very soon, and you trusted your team to be able to take Dragon uncontested.
Mhm.
Perfect. You need to do more of that. You need to be able to infer where the enemies are on the map and be able to walk through it. You didn't walk through their bot lane jungle that much, which is fine, but that was still a very heavily uncontested area based upon their jungler and top laners like movements as the game progressed, which is hard to understand, I know, but be able to control the points of entrances into this jungle. Okay, so this prime location, this prime location over here, these are pretty much the two most areas where team fights will start to occur or vision um, objectivity will occur because if a dragon fight ensues, what happens is we fight over here
Mhm.
80% of the time. If a Baron fight happens, we fight over here 80% of the time. So be able to control these objectives um, through these key vision areas, right? Wards like this, um, to make sure that we have vision around the area where fights likely occur around the objective. Okay, not so much as deep visions, um, deep vision control where we have things like this, because if a fight occurs over in this general area and we don't have like this bush warded, this bush warded, this bush warded, you don't know how many times if you've played League where someone walks out of vision and you misclick or you don't hit them or something happens and something bad gets screwed up. So if we control vision in these areas where vision is very important and prominent in these fights, they're good to go. So I think safer vision, not focus so much on deep vision, unless you're with your team, which we already talked about, but having more safe vision and objective control around these areas. Okay.
So is that one or two things so far? Is that just all objective control?
That's just all objective
Okay.
control.
So one objective control.
Secondly, I don't know your champ pool. I know you played Alistar.
Pretty much Nami, Janna, Alistar are my three right now that I'm working on.
Okay. So I like it. Um, they're all really different. So I like the versatility that you have in it. I like Janna. I like Nami because Nami can be very offensive focused. Janna is very defensive focused. Alistar's a tank. So you have very good variety. Okay, so there's no need to work on your champ pool, especially since you're only owning 3. Mechanics wise, I don't really know. From that game, you were good. Don't really need to work on mechanics. You might need to work on mechanics on Janna or Nami since they're much more mechanically inclined than Alistar. Something I did notice. At the very end of the game, you had like 2,400, and you're still walking around with 2 pink wards. If you're at that point, buy a 6 item. Don't walk around with pinks. Buy a 6 item.
Okay. What's the kind of threshold for that? Like, at what point in the game should I just stop buying pinks?
Okay, when you can afford your 6 item, or at least a big chunk.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because 6 item beats pink wards. Pink wards are really good to have and can hold objectives, but sitting on 3K is really dangerous, or 25K, or 2,500, excuse me, is really dangerous. So make sure that you're not going under that threshold and sticking to items. Also, I didn't really see any. I want to see a little more CDR cooldown reduction into your build, especially on Alistar. Okay, not saying you need to go Lucidity, but maybe you just build the Glacial Shroud. It's only 1,000, or you buy the Kindle Gem for the health. Even though you need the Frozen Heart first, you buy the Kindle Gem for the health and the CDR. Then you build the Frozen Heart, and there you are, 30%. And you're not committed to one item. Try and get a little more CDR, especially if you're playing champs like Janna and Alistar, where CDR is really, really, really good.
Right.
So that's what I would probably say is prioritize CDR because supports really, really need CDR, more so than anyone.
Okay, so I've got written objective control, enemy team movement, and map awareness, and itemization right now.
Right.
Okay. Last question. How often do you recommend lessons to give the maximum benefit? Because obviously too often you're not really practicing, and then not often enough, and you don't know what to practice.
I tell everybody about every 2 weeks. At least 2 to 3.
Okay.
Every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how much you play. Like, I have some people that play like 5 games a week, and that's where I'm like, okay, come back in like a month because you're not playing, this to the same degree as someone who plays 5 games a day. But if you're playing pretty frequently, even 1 or 2 games a day, 2 weeks should be fine.
I lied. I have one last question. For my own benefit and all the viewers, how do you recommend, especially the objective control and enemy team movement? How do I practice that? Obviously, I can do a little bit of research on warding, but what would be like a drill, for example, that I can do in my games, like even a thought drill, like how to analyze or assess a situation? Anything you can recommend that would actually be applicable, like practicable, instead of just, oh, he said to apply this concept, but how do I do it?
You mean, try and word that a little differently.
I'll give an example. So with the headbutt pulverize combination. To drill that, you do headbutt pulverize combinations. But how do you drill objective control and noticing enemy team movement, map awareness, that kind of thing?
The best advice I could give for that, because that is all subjective. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any mechanical thing, it's mechanics, it's objective. You do it, right?
Right.
Subjective is it's anything with objective control, anything about wording is situational every single game. So there is no 1-2 trick to continually, and like we talked through it. We talked through like I don't know how many situations,
Right.
where so many different things can happen, and how wording and everything just changes so dramatically. So there isn't like a 1 to 2 step trick. The best thing I can say is ask yourself why. I think that's what I do more than anything when I play is I ask myself why. Why did I just ward that bush? If I don't have a solid answer, then I probably shouldn't have warded it. Okay? If I go over and I do ward a bush and I say ward a bush and I say why and I'm like, "Oh, because that is key for dragon or that is key for the primary objective." I'm reminding myself that this is a necessity that needs to happen. And if I cannot give myself a reason for what an action I just did, whether it's warding or flashing or doing a combo, anything, then I consider it a mistake. Okay. Um, I think that's just the best advice and tip I could say because everything is very subjective. Um, other than like, mechanical things like look how many wards you're placing down. There's a thing called ward score where you can check to see how many wards you're placing. Use tools like that to at least gauge how often you're warding, and then ask yourself subjective questions like why am I doing this to gauge how good your warding is. Like not just based on how many wards you place, but how effective is it. You know, um,
You
and
can even go over replays and just each time I place a ward, say, is that the best place I could have placed it?
there you go. That would be very beneficial. Yeah, that would be very 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 beneficial. Because I usually don't recommend people watching their own replays because they assess it possibly differently than what they should. But if you're just looking at ward placements and you're saying I should have saved that, or even trinket usage, I see 2 ward rubbles there, shouldn't have used it.
Mm-hmm.
That's way better than looking at the mechanical or more than the mechanical side of things. So yeah, that'd be very very useful in my opinion.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for
oh,
spending. How long was it? Like
2 hours and
2 hours? Jeez.
8 minutes. So
Long time. Thank you
I
very much. It's been an honor.
hey dude,
And
for
I'll
sure.
probably do another lesson in 2 weeks then.
Awesome. I don't know if you're still able to because we had to reschedule, but if you can, please review me on the website. Greatly helps me out.
Yes, still can.
Okay,
I was
cool.
saving it for after.
Okay,
Wanted to
so
judge
yeah, the pressure. So yeah, just review me, and other than that, man, thanks for talking with me. This is probably one of the best sessions I've had with the student based on how engaged we've been. So greatly appreciate it, man.
All right. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.